Hi, Glenn. This is Zelma. I'm in Breckenridge, Colorado. I bought this property in 2003 and gained $460,000 in value. It was rented for 7 years previous. I have to move in since January because of divorce. So I've been in the property for a year and a half already. My question is, will it be beneficial to turn it into LLC? This is a property I'm gonna leave to my kids as inheritance. Um, is it beneficial to stay another 6 months to meet that 2 years out of 5 as a primary residence? Will it LLC avoid any property gaining taxes in the future?
Okay, a couple of things there. So I'm a little unclear. It sounds like you're living in the property and you want to then convert this to an investment. Yes, if you're planning on selling it at any point, then that's where you would run up against that 2 year as a primary residence capital gains. I in fact I had a dinner discussion last night with an investor who would do house flipping. And this is what he would do in his community in Texas and Dallas, was where he would live in the house with his family for 2 years, renovate the property, and then and then they would sell it, but they'd move next door down the street to another house that needed a total renovation. The reason they stayed there for 2 years is to avoid the capital gains, right? Because it's a primary residence. If you move within less amount of time, then you're selling it, you're going to pay those capital gains taxes. So that's where your question comes from, that 2 year window, that 2 year timeline. Very, very important. So if you're going to sell it, then yes, you would pay capital gains in that way. But if you're planning on handing it down to your family, it doesn't matter if you move out of the property, right? It's still going to be in your name. You're going to own the property. If you're not living there as your primary and you move somewhere else, it doesn't really matter as long as your family's never going to sell it. So what do you really care at that point? That's really up to you. That's a personal decision. But if you're not going to sell it, then who cares? In my opinion, who cares about the 6 month additional to prevent that capital gains? But again, if you are going to sell it, then yeah, hey, can you live there for another 6 months to avoid paying that penalty? Great. As far as an LLC goes, if you're going to turn this into an investment property, absolutely. I mean, again, I am not a financial advisor. I'm not a lawyer, but all of the experts we've ever worked with on our team and beyond, and the thousands of real estate deals that we've ever done, always, always, always wanting to have those properties in an LLC for legal and liability protection. It just comes down to liability protection for you as an investor, right? So you have that property in your own name. Imagine it's an investment. 5 years from now, you have a tenant in that property that I don't know if it's where it is, if it's snowy there or whatever, but imagine someone slips and falls on ice outside of your property, right? Your tenant. And even though it's not your responsibility to shovel the walk, it's theirs, it's the tenant. What if they decide to sue you, right? They can sue you personally now because it's in your name. It's not in an LLC. Now they can come after all of your personal assets. And you don't want that, okay? And so, as Garrett Sutton likes to say, Garrett Sutton, Rich Dad Advisor, lawyer and friend of the show, what he likes to say is it's not a matter of if you will get sued in business as a business owner or a real estate investor. It's a matter of when. And it could be for something small and stupid, right? Like the city wants to sue you over a sidewalk. It's going to happen at some point. Maybe you're lucky and it'll never happen, but most chances are it's going, for the most part, it's probably going to happen at some point, and you just want to have that protection in place. And then that way it's very, very, it's much easier to deal with if it's in an LLC, because then they're only suing for the asset. And what are the assets in that? It's just one house, right? So there's no additional bank accounts. There's no additional funds coming in. They don't own multiple businesses. That LLC owns that property. Okay. So there's not your personal assets. It's not your family's money. It's not the money that your grandfather left to you, all being up for grabs if you didn't have that asset in an LLC. Remember, limited liability companies, they were set up basically for shipping back in the day, right? So people who would invest to have ships bring goods all around the world, the companies themselves structured it so that, God forbid, if something happened and those goods weren't delivered, that they wouldn't sue and then have all of their livelihood taken away from them. It was just meant for the ship and the delivery of that shipping container, or the old ships that would bring goods, around the world. So that's where that comes from, and so it's meant to protect you. So absolutely, if you're going to turn this into an investment, absolutely, I would suggest getting it set up in some sort of a legal entity. Again, contact a lawyer. They can set it up for you very, very easily for a few $100, and you're up and running with that property being owned by that LLC. But it sounds like you got some great equity in that property. So also think about the thing that stood out to me. It's not a question you even asked, but is how could I tap into some of that equity? You're sitting on this equity. Can you take out some loans, take out some home equity lines of credit, and now use that equity in that rental property to start buying additional rental properties? Again, you cannot eat equity. So if you're sitting on equity in a property, and a bank is willing to give you money, free money, then use it. Use it to build out your portfolio of rental properties, in my opinion. If you have a question, please feel free to come over to our website. Go to morrisinvest.com. Click on the little microphone icon down in the lower right-hand corner and leave us a 30-second voicemail question, and we will answer it here on the show. Now, go out there, take action, and become a real estate investor. I still believe it's the #1 way to build and preserve your family's wealth. We'll see you next time.